Thank you all so much for being here. My name is Chad Quinones. I am a director of alumni engagement for Seaver College and the George Pepperdine College Alumni Relations at Pepperdine. I've been with your office for 13 years now, and I have fallen in love with Pepperdine, even though I'm not an alumnus myself. Um, I feel like I bleed blue and orange now. With me tonight is also my colleague Lisette Isiodoria. She is new to our office and a recent alum, and then a recent alum also of USC. So welcome, Lisette, also tonight. And just to let everybody know, we are recording tonight's session so that it can live forever on our Pep Learn website, and we will send you that link once this is uploaded to that website. And yes, thank you all for being here. You are part of the Great Books Club. This is our second iteration of the Great Books Club. We started last year and had a fantastic time with Professor Dr. Jessica Hooton Wilson, and this year Paul graciously agreed to jump in and take lead. We have over 180 people who have registered for this book club, and it's the most ever. So we're so excited. And thank you to Paul because we know that everyone loves you and you're the reason everyone's here. So thank you. And
No,
with that,
Dante, Chad, Dante is the reason everyone is here.
of course, but you brought Dante to everybody here.
Well, okay. Well, before we get any further into cause and effect, Chad, thank you for that introduction. I am now going to read a prayer. Those of you who know me know I like to begin with a prayer. This is Thomas Aquinas's prayer before study. Dante read Aquinas carefully. He would have studied with Dominicans as well as Franciscans. And so, with no further ado, let's say a prayer before we begin. Ineffable Creator, who from the treasures of your wisdom has established three hierarchies of angels, has arrayed them in marvelous order above the fiery heavens, and has marshaled the regions of the universe with such artful skill. You are proclaimed the true font of light and wisdom, and the primal origin raised high beyond all things. Pour forth a ray of your brightness into the darkened places of my mind, and the minds of all of us here today. Disperse from my soul the twofold darkness into which I was born, sin and ignorance. You make eloquent the tongues of infants, refine my speech, pour forth upon my lips the goodness of your blessing. Grant to me keenness of mind, capacity to remember, skill in learning, subtlety to interpret, and eloquence in speech. May you guide the beginning of our work, direct its progress, and bring it to completion. You who are true God and true man, who live and reign, world without end. Amen. Okay, well, good to see all of you. Just a few things to begin with. We are being recorded, so I will be restrained and careful in my speech. I hope clear throughout. I am going to present a PowerPoint, a version of which I've used before, to give you an overview of the Divine Comedy. I'm not going to be looking at the chat while I'm presenting. I'm a very bad multitasker, but feel free if questions occur to you or if something isn't clear, put it in the chat, and Chad will be taking care of keeping track of those. And when I'm finished with this PowerPoint presentation, to give some context and an overview of Dante's journey, we're going to pause for some questions, discussion, and then we're going to turn to the cantos that I highlighted in my note to you. Does that sound reasonable? And of course, you're all saying yes now, but I can't hear you, so I will move along. These are the dates, by the way. I hope you'll come to all of them. I think we'll get better at this as we go along. And to be quite frank with you from the beginning, the Inferno is my least favorite. Okay, I don't want to turn you off from the Inferno. It's fabulous, it's magnificent, but there's a lot of despair. It's sin imaged as the soul closing oneself off from grace. And so when we get to purgatory, purgatory is pretty much the waiting room, if you will, or the spa, that people work out in before they go to heaven. And then on April 15th, I really do want to get questions from you and see if we can see the whole poem as a whole and talk about perhaps how it might be significant these days and have a genuine conversation. Okay, here goes. I'm going to push a button and I'm going to hope this advances. My thesis, you can read this. I really believe, and I think literally at the heart of Dante's Divine Comedy, the word amor, love, appears. Love, that is the love that moves the sun and the stars, but also the will of a Florentine pilgrim named Dante, who, guided by others, calls us to be his fellow pilgrims, to follow him on his journey. All of that is at work in the poem. Dante descends and then he ascends. He grows into a deeper understanding of the ways love can be misdirected, the practice of penitence, and finally, the luminous vision of communal beatitude. We will follow Dante's journey by looking closely at a few selected passages from his great poem, and then looking at a few works of art right now that were inspired by his journey. This, for example, is by Botticelli. My goal is that when you hear Dante, and many of you already do this, you'll think love, not hell. And this is another Botticelli. In this way, Dante, the poet, is a lot like Augustine, the writer, who writes his Confessions many, many years before, around the year 400. But he says, I do this out of love, the Latin word caritas, for my fellow pilgrims. I'm making this confession to you, not only with a secret exultation and fear, and with a secret grief touched by hope, but also in the ears of believing sons of men and women, sharers in my joy, conjoined with me in mortality, fellow citizens and pilgrims. That word pilgrim is very important because we're going to be reading a narrator who is a poet who is describing himself years before when he takes this pilgrimage into the afterlife. I was going to take this out, but I left it in. 1321, 2021, 700th anniversary of Dante's death. Pope Francis loved literature, and I like what he said in his letter on Dante that year. Dante invites us to become his companions on the journey. Today, too, he wants to show us the route to happiness, the right path to live a fully human life, emerging from the dark forest in which we lose our bearings and the sense of our true worth. But you do need to read the whole thing to get that sense of the whole. I was reading a wonderful, he's a friend, Peter Hawkins. He's retired from Yale now. He admits in his book, Undiscovered Country, he's a Christian practicing, but he doesn't quite believe in hell as dogma has presented it. But he writes, perhaps there's some good that can come of considering what it would actually be like if our capacity to know and love God were to atrophy or die completely. To become conscious of what another pope, John Paul II, called a state of complete frustration and emptiness of life. Hawkins says that might be the first step in moving away from it. In this sense, Dante's journey through hell is purgatorial. He's going to get out of there. In Dante's hell, it would seem there's no trapdoor out. There was only the arrival of Christ when he descended into hell and released the patriarchs of the Old Testament, the Hebrew Bible. But Dante will get out with his guide Virgil. And I think when the reader gets out, well, the existential question, what does this say to me about my life? That's what interests me when we get into the Inferno. All right, there's himself. He's exiled in 1302, presenting his poem to Florence, his beloved city. A lot of you will know the Duomo. And this is a painting by Masolino. He's gesturing toward the three levels of the afterlife: hell, souls descending, Mount Purgatory, 7 levels, Adam and Eve on the top, and the starry heavens, which comprise Paradiso. Now, when I say love, you should know, and I've been mentioning 2 popes already, he had no love for Pope Boniface, the pope that was there in his time. So he's holding the 2 keys, silver and gold key. In those days, you know this, I think almost all of you, popes were power players. They were heads of state, the papal states, and they were pretty much in competition with the Roman emperor, the leader of the Holy Roman Empire. And for Dante, this was the problem. He thought politicians, kings, monarchs should rule and bring unity. Popes, theologians, priests should be spiritual leaders. And this is what got De Monarchia condemned for a long time. It was condemned by the Catholic Church. They didn't like that, but in the early 20th century, it got off the list. So what's going on at the time? Well, you've got parties. Sounds familiar. Guelphs and Ghibellines. Ghibellines were kind of aristocratic. Guelphs were more democratic. Guelphs actually supported the Pope more than the Ghibellines, who supported the emperor. The blacks and the whites comprised two different groups within the Guelphs. Dante was in the white party, kind of leaning toward the emperor themselves. The blacks took power in 1302, and they found Dante guilty on forged charges, and he was put into exile. So for the last 20 years of his life, Dante's in exile, and he writes his poem beginning around 1308 and finishes probably the year of his death. What did Dante care about? What Dante saw, look at all those colors in this map. He saw a Europe that was terribly divided. He saw an Italy that was divided. Yes, you had the papal states, but you have all these little city-states fighting each other. He himself had gone to war when he was a younger man. Why is it called a comedy? This is a picture of Verona, by the way. He stayed in two places, Verona and Ravenna, in exile. Dante wrote the comedy in exile, and he told his sponsor, Congrande, how to read the poem. Always read it, he said, literally and allegorically. And he also writes in the vernacular. He writes in the Italian that you could hear in Florence and, in fact, through all of Italy today. The vernacular Tuscan dialect that Dante spoke has now become Italian. And that rhetorical register moves from very high speeches to what Augustine called sermo humilis, the kind of low speech, even comically low, even rude speech. Dante in Paradise calls it a sacred poem, which sounds presumptuous if you've never read it. In other words, he says, read my poem like you'd read the Bible. Whoa, well then, is this revelation? Well, how do you read in the fourfold sense? Well, Jerusalem in Galatians 4:22 can be read as the city, the actual city of the Jewish people. It can be read allegorically as the Church of Christ. It can be read morally as the human soul, anagogically as pointing to the heavenly city, the heavenly Jerusalem. So this is somewhat familiar, especially those of you who've been raised Christian. Dante's own illustration, Psalm 114, when Israel went out of Egypt, literally the escape of the slaves out of Egypt, led by Moses. Allegorically, the freedom of the soul becoming liberated from the bonds of sin, so that it's moving toward the true home and getting out of slavery. Okay, so in the Renaissance, many of you will recognize Raphael's School of Athens. Dante's on the cusp, and they're discovering Greek and Roman literary and philosophical resources. Of course, the monks through the Middle Ages, the earlier Middle Ages, kept a lot of this alive. Works like Ovid's Metamorphoses, Virgil's Aeneid, and other works. And you'll have read the Inferno and seen so many mythological references. And this was a stumbling block for students. I remember when I taught it back in Valparaiso, a student said, what's he doing with all these references to Cerberus and, all these mythological creatures? And Augustine can help here. The short of it is, and he says this in one of his books called De Doctrina Christiana, on Christian doctrine, think about what the Israelites did when they left Egypt. They took Egyptian gold and silver, and they decorated the ark with it, the Ark of the Covenant. Thus, you can take the teachings of the pagans and also from liberal disciplines more suited to the uses of truth. And you can decorate the work that you're doing with those. Some truths concerning the worship of one God are discovered even among them. Okay? And of course, Virgil was a pagan. That's why he's in limbo. We'll get to limbo in a second. The poem is written in terza rima. That's ABA, BCB, CDC. It's very hard to do in English because in Italian, you've got a lot of words that end in vowels. And so our translator, Kirkpatrick, doesn't try to do the terza rima. Others have, like Dorothy Sayers. It's not only Trinitarian in the form of the three lines, it's also incarnational. John Frachero points to Ephesians 1:10. In its form, the terza rima looks back, lay looks back at way, but also looks forward. Would looks forward to understood. So you're looking back and you're looking forward, just as Christ is a fulfillment of the Old Testament and looks forward to those people who follow in his form, in his example, and become images of Christ themselves. And Beatrice will be the key example for Dante. Okay, this is the street he was born in. They say this is Dante's house. I've been so lucky here at Pepperdine to go to Florence so many times. If you see my little arrow right down that street on the right, that's a church. I think it's called Santa Margherita. That's where he met, like 9 years old, Beatrice. They were both from fairly prominent, not too big families. Obviously, she's older here. She was 8 when they met. He was 9. She was a woman who he saw the epitome of what it meant to live the Christian life. He also was carrying a torch for her, big time. He wrote a lot of love poems to her. He wrote La Vita Nuova after she died in 1290. And, there's that same picture. I want to read one thing that I found in Dorothy Sayers talking about this moment. And this is Dante talking about how good it felt when she did salute him, greet him, and what it meant to him. Let me go back to the picture where he's being saluted by her. I say that when she appeared from any direction then, in the hope of her wondrous salutation, there was no enemy left to me. Rather, there smote into me a flame of charity, which made me forgive every person who'd ever injured me. And if at that moment anybody had put a question to me about anything whatsoever, my answer would have been simply love, with a countenance clothed in humility. Sayers writes, not lovers alone, but also all those who have undergone the experience known as conversion will recognize this frame of mind. In the language of religion, Dante, when he stood in the presence of Beatrice, knew himself to be in a state of grace. And that's why she is such an important figure. They both married different people. As I said, she died in 1290. He swore even at the end of La Vita Nuova, he'd write a work that was worthy of her. That work is the Divine Comedy. The Divine Comedy begins on Good Friday in the year 1300. And as people point out, in 1300, Dante was sitting pretty in Florence. He was one of the 6 priors. He was at a very high government level. He was one of the guilds that was at the top. And the white Guelphs were in power. He was known for his poetry. He was married. He had children. It was when he was sent, I forget what city. He may have been sent to Rome or perhaps to another city. No, it was another city. And Pope Boniface and others in the Black Guelph party plotted to have the royalty from France come into Florence and kick the white Guelphs out of Florence. Now that doesn't occur until 1302. In 1300, he's gotten tenure, if you will. He's gotten a promotion. Everything should be going right, but yet he's in this dark wood. And if you want to turn to our translation now, and I'm going to try to do this for the next few minutes, Kirkpatrick describes it this way. At one point midway in our path in life, and notice he says in our path. He doesn't say in my. He wants us to identify with him and his pilgrimage. I came around and found myself now searching through a dark wood, the right way blurred and lost. How hard it is to say what that wood was. A wilderness, savage, brute, harsh, wild. Only to think of it renews my fear. So bitter that thought that death is hardly more so. But since my theme will be the good I found there, I mean to speak of other things I saw. So his theme is the good he found there, even the good that he as pilgrim will find by seeing sin for what it really is. He tries to climb a mountain. This is William Blake's rendering of Dante being met by a leopard, a lion, and a she-wolf, typically representing the sin of or the inclination toward lust, toward pride, toward avarice. Sometimes they are said to represent other things, but the point is this other figure appears, and this is Virgil. Virgil is the author of the Aeneid, the great poet who lived, some say even kind of foresaw the coming of Christ in one of his eclogues, but he died, and Dante read him very carefully, and on the allegorical level, he represents the possibility of a united Rome. The Aeneid is the poem in which Aeneas sails out of Troy and becomes the founder of what will become Rome and the Roman Empire, which at its best, and in fact, Aeneas was singing of this during Augustus's reign, brought what was called the Pax Romana, the unity. Yet Virgil says to Dante, you cannot climb, you cannot ascend. Much like St. Augustine, he's saying you must descend first. The mantra in Confessions is descend that you may ascend and make your way to God. Christ, if you will, descends in humility to become human, and then ascends in the resurrection and the ascension. The path of the human being is toward the humility to see sin for what it is. And so that's what Dante will do. You have a diagram of hell in the Kirkpatrick version. If you're using a different translation, no problem, that's fine. But you know that the three main divisions are incontinence. It's an Aristotelian word for, I fell into it. I ate all the cookies in the jar. That's gluttony. Where you're just kind of overtaken, your rationality is overtaken by an emotion, losing yourself in lust, gluttony, or wrath. And then there's violence, right? And there's violence against neighbor, violence against oneself, and violence against God. And then the lowest, and this is more from Cicero, the lowest sins are those of fraud, because you're willfully using your intelligence, your rationality, to break the bonds that human beings have with each other, and in the lowest ones, to kin, to one's homeland, to one's guests and benefactors. And as you know, at the end, we see the traitors in the mouth of Satan. This is Dante's universe. It's still Ptolemaic. The earth is at the center. And you'll see that this is Jerusalem. And when Satan fell, we learned this in the course of the Inferno, he fell this way, kind of feet first. And when they encounter Satan, they encounter him here, they climb over him, and then make their way all the way up to this side of the globe, which is Mount Purgatory. When Dante learns that he's going to go on this journey, Aeneas went on the journey to the underworld in Book 6 of the Aeneid. St. Paul talks about seeing heaven. He says, who am I? That's not who I am. And Virgil says there were three ladies who made this possible. Mary is moved by love to seek out Lucia, who is the patron of eyesight, who talks to Beatrice and says, Beatrice, look at that lost man. He needs your help. And Beatrice goes to Virgil and says, please guide this person. He's lost. And so they make their journey. And I want to look at this moment here. This is in, I think, Canto 3. You got the gates of hell. Justice inspired me, inspired my exalted creator. I'm a creature of the holiest power, of wisdom in the highest, and of primal love. It's hard for me still to understand hell as being created out of love. I mean, it's so horrible. Look how unhappy these people look. But notice this is after they get past the lukewarm. We'll skip over the lukewarm and look at, this is in page 14. They cross the Acheron, and on page 15, Canto 3, they're in autumn, leaves are lifted one by one. In a translation I prefer by Mandelbaum, he writes, leaves detach themselves one by one until the branch looks down and sees its tatters arrayed on the ground. Line 124, they are eager to be shipped across. The justice of God so spurs them all ahead that fear in them becomes their sharp desire, and no good soul will ever leave from here. They want hell. And this is very strange. I mean, how could you want eternal damnation? Dorothy Sayers calls it, I think very well, the drama of the soul's choice. Is there any way out of Dante's hell? There doesn't seem to be, but I am reading a wonderful book that brings Sayers, Singleton, and C.S. Lewis. They were all friends together. Is there any way out of hell? C.S. Lewis imagines this in The Great Divorce, and it makes for good reading alongside this. His point, much like Sayers, is that this is the soul's choice. It's a perverse choice, but you get for eternity what you choose. Now, we'll come back to that and see if that holds up as we read the poem. There's a little hiatus where they go to limbo, and he meets poets like him, great poets, Homer, Lucan, Ovid. He sees in the background great pagan authors, Aristotle, Plato, Averroes, Avicenna, the Muslim writers. And they're in a place that's kind of lovely, but hopeless. And notice that Dante, here in red, standing next to Virgil, joins with them. He sees, he recognizes how good he is. Call it magnanimity, not pride. We'll come back to that. There are times when you say to yourself, who does this guy think he is? And it's understandable. At one point, Virgil does say, someone did once come down here. There was the harrowing of hell. One might ask, well, why only Adam and Eve and the patriarchs? What about good Virgil, who not only seems to grow in the course of the journey as he leads Dante like a father and a mother, but also, especially in Purgatory, speaks words that are theological. He seems to have a sense of incarnation and Trinity. Well, we'll come back to that question in discussion. When Natalie reads the part of Francesca, you know that she's paired up with Paolo, and the contrapasso is a word, an Italian word that essentially means the punishment reflects the crime. Lust is, you know, when one opens kind of the door to it, one feels kind of blown around, like one can't quite let go of it. It becomes like an obsession. It becomes something that just, you know, blows you away. And I think that's what he's up to with these lovers here depicted by Blake, being blown about. Francesca, we'll hear in a moment, you know that she read a book. The book, let me move this so that you can see, there's the book. They skip the book and they go right to the kiss when the kiss is described in the book, and the rest is history. The husband walks in and kills them in flagrante. He goes to the traders, and Paolo and Francesca fly around for eternity, and Dante faints. So how are we to understand Dante's pity for Francesca? How are we to understand just a few cantos later, and we won't actually read this one, but when Filippo Argenti tries to get on the boat and Dante curses him and pushes him away, Virgil says, blessed are, you know, is the womb that bore ye, words that were addressed to Christ. And the anger that Dante shows to the condemned soul would suggest, well, he's learning something. These are people who are justly punished, but it's not consistent. He meets others like Farinata and Cavalcante, and Jack and Jeffrey will be playing these roles. And Farinata is impressive. He's public spirited. He seems to have a kind of virtuous pride about him, and Cavalcanti cares about his son, whom he mistakenly thinks is dead. Pierre de la Vigne commits suicide, but he's a hard worker. He's been a secretary to the Emperor, Frederick II, and he's been maligned. Brunetto Latini was Dante's teacher. We actually see a picture of him next to Dante in this earliest image of Dante by Dante's contemporary, the great Giotto, discovered a few years ago. Ulysses, what does Ulysses want? Ulysses wants knowledge. He tells his men, we're not brute beasts. We're meant to learn. We're meant to explore. So why is he in hell? And Dante, of course, is a lot like all of these guys. We'll get to the mad voyage of Ulysses, but what do they want to show you here? Just to show you that what he does in his voyage is go past the Rock of Gibraltar, which is the gates of Hercules. So when Sam reads this later, he's on his way to purgatory, not with any intention of penitence, but with, that's Jerusalem. He's not going that way. He's going this way, okay? And he's going toward the mountain, and that's when the ship sinks. So why is this voyage considered a mad voyage? Why does it please another for that boat to sink? And then finally, Ugolino. I hope we can get to all these. I think we can if there's a miracle. Who is locked in prison unjustly with his children. And his 4 children, one by one, die. And Dante curses Pisa for allowing this awful, innocent suffering to happen. And there's Ugolino biting his own hands and his children looking at him. The traitors are all in ice. Ugolino is chewing the head of Ruggieri. I didn't show you that, but it's a grim, grim image. He's literally cannibalistic. And Dante himself, at this point, pulls the hair of Bocca here, kicks one guy in the head, says he'll wipe away the tears and doesn't. Is this righteous indignation conforming to God's justice, or is this a kind of infernal wrath that Dante is engaging in? I have not, and I want to see what you guys think. When he climbs over the mechanical, stony, reified Satan, who doesn't even seem conscious, he's chewing the body of Judas, Cassius, and Brutus, the betrayers of the Roman Empire, Judas, the betrayer of Christ. This is the image that he would have seen in the baptistry in Florence. Now, the picture of Christ is far bigger in that baptistry. You can see that, but the Satan one is here. So that 3-headed travesty of the Trinity that you have is something he would have seen, and he was baptized in this beautiful octagonal building across from the Duomo. Okay, I'm going to go super fast now because we're going to come back to this. He climbs over Satan, hip hip hooray. He sees the stars again. He's going to go to Mount Purgatory. This is where the soul is reformed through penitential suffering that participates in the suffering of Christ. This will become much clearer as we go on. I'll go over this again in a month. But there's suffering in purgatory, but it's always marked by penitence, by community, by freedom, by a telos, a movement toward a goal. Unlike the Inferno, no repentance. These souls are next to each other, but they're isolated, they're imprisoned, they're compulsively repetitive. There's curses, not prayers. There's rebellion, despair. Okay, we'll be getting there. But when you get next month, you'll see that purgatory is like Hawaii. The second time I read it, I was on the Big Island of Hawaii, and I looked around and I said, this is purgatory. It's awfully nice here. And it's beautiful weather, and he gets girded with a humble reed. He's greeted by souls that are arriving, singing that wonderful Psalm 119. He goes up steps of penitence and confession and penance, and he observes the penances of each. Sometimes he participates in them, and then contemplates the virtue that counters the vice. And now it's not the Aristotelian Ciceronian structure, it's the seven deadly sins. Pride is the worst. Humility counters pride. Envy. The souls have their eyes sewn shut, but they're leaning on each other. In Cana, Mary wishes well for the others at the feast. In wrath, filled with smoke, Mary is the emblem of mildness. And acedia, or sloth, well, they're running. And Mary, with zeal, runs to Elizabeth when she finds out that Elizabeth is pregnant. Marco Lombardo, whom he meets in the circle of the wrathful, will emphasize free will. You know, this goes back to the Inferno, that they're choosing this condition. And what's really interesting in purgatory, when you're done with your penance, you kind of know it. You suddenly feel free and you kind of blast off. Pride, envy, wrath, sloth, avarice, gluttony. And one similarity to the Inferno, the lustful are kind of the furthest up until you get to the earthly paradise. Statius talks about the way the will fully free surprises soul into a change of place. We see the avarice clinging to the earth. We see the poverty of Mary in Bethlehem when Jesus is born. Foresi Donati is going to help us understand how their suffering can be understood in the light of Christ. That this is not just some kind of, accounting by God, you owe me this many years of pain. It's understood in the light of the cross, which is the fruit of all grace. And Foresi says that, we somehow participate in the suffering of Christ as we do this. Mary wants the water into wine, not because she's a glutton for wine, but because she wants others to have a good party. Finally, the penance in lust is he walks through flames where people are embracing each other, actually kissing each other. And that's the penance. And that's when he meditates on the chastity of the Virgin and goes to the earthly paradise where he will meet Beatrice. And now I'm going to try to do something without talking so much, just take you through the rest of the journey, which I'll return to later. He confesses. He's cleaned. He rises up. And Beatrice says, this is natural. My weight is my love, says Augustine. And when that weight of sin has been purged, as Dante has been doing, he rises naturally to paradise. He meets Piccarda Donati, who says, in God's will is our peace. Don't think about rankings. Yes, martyrs are someplace higher than we are, but all of this, these are two of the churches where he would have learned from Dominicans and from Franciscans. Everyone is in this place as a command performance to show you what beatitude is. We'll get to all this when you read Paradise. He learns the story of Francis of Assisi. It's told by Thomas, how Francis marries Lady Poverty, how he, in his life, images Christ with the stigmata. We'll hear the life of St. Dominic, told by the Franciscan, Bonaventure. We'll also hear Cacciaguida, his great-great-grandfather. He says to Dante, you got a vocation. You're going to write a poem. He doesn't say it in this way, but you're going to write a poem in which popes are in hell. And they're going to scratch where it itches, but you got to write what you write. He died in the Crusades. That's what's being pictured there. He's examined in faith, hope, and love. They're singing, they're smiling, there's embracing. He looks back and he realizes, no, the earth is not the center of the universe. Beatrice points to the punto, which is God, as the true center of the universe. And in the final vision, more mediation. His final guide is St. Bernard of Clairvaux, praying to Mary that Dante can receive the vision of beatitude. It's beyond words, but he tries to explain the rainbow of the Trinity that he beholds, and within one of those circles, the image of Christ, the image of the incarnation. And at that moment, the love that moves the sun and the other stars is not only the center of the universe, it's the center of Dante's heart. Pilgrim becomes poet, and he writes the poem. So that's what we're reading. We're reading the first part of uh, this this poem. We're going to get to the Inferno in a second, but first we'll take a brief pause for questions. Oh, let's see. Could I let me get out of this? Let's see. I know what I can do. I can end the. Oh, I wanted to show. If you want to hear Roberto Benigni recite Paradise 33, check that out. And if you want to hear little, I think I sent you the link to this. The 100 Days of Dante is a wonderful site. Let me get out of this so I can see you, as well as perhaps read your questions. Okay, I'm looking here. Okay, all right, Chad, you're going to help me out here, right? I think I pushed the wrong button. I'm looking. Oh, Ty DeLong asks, how old is the most reliable manuscript of the comedy? I saw one of them in Ravenna. They have some of the earliest manuscripts. His two sons did commentaries. So, I mean, he dies in 1321, right around there is the time. I have Longfellow's illustrations. Good. Gustave Doré, good for you. Gustave Doré is the illustrator we've been seeing a lot of. Oh, good. Catherine, no. See, I want you to notice that Catherine is a dentiste, and she knows the answers. There are a few dozen manuscripts within 20 years of his death, no original copies in his own hand. We have one. Thank you so much. Oh, so you guys already have a conversation going here. St. John, St. John Chrysostom thought Christ emptied out hell. Christus, the whole thing, John. That's a lot. I'm wondering Dante's relation to church or society at the time. How did he have authority on his subject? He was an autodidact, and he went to church. The Divine Comedy. Did he make his own way? Meaning, did he write the publishing of the Divine Comedy become his origin of success? Or was he? Oh, he was known before. He was already known as a great poet. People would have been anthologizing Dante even if he hadn't written the Divine Comedy. And he wrote a book of philosophy. He wrote political philosophy. Okay, so maybe. Oh, good, Catherine. In addition to renown from his political career, he was esteemed, yes, in intellectual and artistic circles. I don't know. Are you able to, Chad? Talk to me. Are people able to read this as I'm reading this?
Yes, everybody can see the chat
Yeah.
question.
All right. So let me look at the. I'd like to take a few minutes to see. I'm going to view you as a gallery. Ah, there it is. Look at that. Oh, that's much better. It's like Zoom day, COVID days. Now, can you raise your hand? Oh, Pierce, is there a sense? Pierce, just take your microphone, put it on, and ask your question. Okay.
We were just talking about wondering how the comedy itself is received after it's written. Obviously, popes in hell, calling people out, like how, yeah.
So I'm still learning, of course. Dominicans didn't like it for some reason. I have to go further into this. Catherine, I want you to help me at any moment where you know something that I don't. De Marquia was banned. There must have been a lot of scratching with the itching that he inspired. But as far as I know, the Commedia itself was never like officially banned by the church. There is a book, it's come out of Princeton recently, about the reception of Dante, and that's a book I want to read. Okay, that's a good question, Pierce. Other questions? I'm trying to just raise your hand if you can, or
there are a few in there. Jerry asked, what penance should I pay for being late to this Zoom meeting? I should have read that before I posed it.
Turn your microphone on and say mea culpa.
Hello, Dr. Contino. My throat's a little bit sore, but mea culpa.
There you go. Oh, it's Jerry. It's so good to see you. Are you still teaching?
Yes, sir.
All right. So good to see you. Oh, look at this. Wow. John,
I wasn't joking about John Chrysostom.
Well, you weren't at all, were you? Look at this. We got to get a copy of this, Chad. You got to copy these things, okay, in case I forget.
Yes, sir.
So you're saying okay, so Chrysostom says the whole thing was empty.
The whole thing is emptied out.
The whole thing, it's all gone. So that means Virgil makes it.
Yes.
All right.
Well, that's not the whole story, but anyway.
All right. Well, good for you. Okay, more questions. More good for John Chrysostom too, because I like that. I mean, there's a wonderful book. Do you want to know where I come down on this? I bring it in every time. Von Balthasar, who quotes Chrysostom and Dante and Dostoevsky and all of them, dare we hope that all are saved, that all human beings are saved. Is there a warrant for such hope? Yes. 1 Timothy, God desires that all human beings be saved. Is there room for the perversity of will that says, I don't give a damn, I'm going to be damned? Yes. Now, some, like David Bentley Hart, who wrote a book, said that's impossible. He's kind of Platonic in his argument. If you know the good, you can't reject the good. But I think Dostoevsky and others knew that, yeah, you can, and perversely, you can reject the good. I do like Balthazar's intervention in that, as far as that goes. I have hope for Virgil, but that's another issue. More questions. So, Chad, I'm going to rely on you to give us, oh, there's Jack. Jack is Orthodox as well. Thank you. Regarding John, did you have something on that, Jack?
Yeah, just in terms of the Orthodox understanding, there's a distinction between hell, i.e., the realm of the dead, and the lake of fire,
Okay.
the place of eternal damnation. At Christ's resurrection, hell was emptied. That's what St. John says, meaning everyone is resurrected from the dead. Everyone is bodily raised. So in the comedy, that has not yet occurred, which is why later in the Inferno, Virgil actually answers a question regarding this, how once the souls get their bodies back, because they will be raised from the dead,
That's right.
They will actually suffer more. So
yeah, it's pretty grim.
So
Yeah,
what do you
and
think is
same
happening
thing-
in the harrowing of, the harrowing of hell, though? That's what I kind of am fascinated by, the, Christus Victor harrowing out hell.
Right.
Everything's
So,
just shattered and busted out.
well, in the images, the icons that we have, or the frescoes, Christ is delivering the patriarchs, the Hebrew patriarchs.
Right.
So it's Adam and Eve and Abraham and Sarah and that whole crowd. Other questions? I see one. Did Dante think of himself as a prophet? Michelle asks. Yes, he sure did. He called his poem sacred, and there it is. You call it arrogance, call it magnanimity, call it a vocation, call it a delusion. That's for you to figure out. Other questions? To clear the decks before we turn to the text itself, which is more interesting, I think. But any other background questions that I may have missed? I can only see some faces. Gosh, I can't believe there's 100 people here. For heaven's sake. I don't see 100 people. How do I make the screen go so I can see everybody? Maybe if you have your hand up, just put your microphone on and ask a question, okay? See what happens.
And Paul, also, if you stop sharing for a moment, you might be able to see more people.
Oh, that's what I'm supposed to do. Thank you. Let's stop sharing. That seems really mean, though, but I'm going to do it.
There you go.
Okay, I stopped sharing, but I can't see everybody, but that's okay. I think it's okay. What if I shut this chat off and, oh, I know how to do it. There it is. Now I'm looking for hands up. Now raise your hand if you've got something, because I can see everybody now. Some of them have their cameras off, but we'll let that ride. That's all right. Josh, what did I miss? Josh, you teach Dante. There's my colleague, Josh. What, anything I missed that should be said?
Not probably not within the last time. I thought that was an excellent overview of everything in the comedy. So,
all right. Okay, then I'm going to go back. Where's Catherine? Catherine, turn your mic on. What did I miss? Fill us in, because she's been taught by some of the best of the best. Yeah.
The only thing, there was a sort of a sub question to Pierce's comment in the chat about the sort of impact that Dante had on the development of Catholic thought. I think people give Dante a lot more credit for development of doctrinal issues than is actually accurate. I think Dante is so imaginative that he created a lot of images that help people imagine what these doctrinal things could look like, and they receive and interpret Dante or these doctrinal matters through Dante's pictures. But I don't think that Dante can be credited with the creation of anything that could be even remotely considered dogma or doctrine from the Catholic Church.
No, including the doctrine of purgatory. Yeah.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah,
Or
it was there.
Yes, I mean he's imagining these levels of hell. I mean that there's a lot that he is creating that, that
Yeah.
kind of thing. And I think
Yeah.
people credit Dante with the invention of hell as we imagine it in our modern time. But anything that he is claiming to actually be true about the actual real place, I think you can find a very credible source that he is referencing for everything he's putting forward.
Good for you. Good for you. Thank you, Captain. That's super helpful. Somebody just asked, why are the falsifiers so down? I think we have a counterfeiter in the room. Who said that? Identify yourself.
Oh, it was me, but I'm not.
Wojtek, why are you worried about that, Wojtek?
Oh no, I mean, I don't know, it just didn't really seem like that big of a deal.
Yeah, and they're all got scabs and they're itching themselves. He hates fraud. He just hates when you breach the bond of trust rationally, using your good mind to willfully, break that bond. So, I mean, he's got pimps there. He's got, astrologers, schismatics. I mean, we're not going to get into the malabulges, the bad pouches intensely, because I want to get into the main, figures that I've assigned readings. But, those are all good questions. The incredible visual language, Catherine says, the gore, the intricate descriptions, good. It's like Stranger Things. Catherine, has it come to this? Okay, you want to defend that claim.
No, that was someone commenting to me. I didn't write that.
I thought you turned from Dante to Stranger Things. No offense, I've seen the early episodes. Now, Natalie,
not there yet.
On the slide about using mythologies, that's similar to Lewis' concern about true myth and myth pointing to God. I think so. That's a good connection. I think that makes good sense. Is Dante lost, damned when he's in the Inferno? No. But I think, and this is going to be the transition. Here we go, segue. He sees himself in all the people that we're going to meet right now. Okay? Okay, Ty along. Thank you, Ty. Read that. But by all means, go to the 100 Days of Dante and learn. But now it's time to meet. Where's Natalie? Let me find you. There you are. Yay. And Natalie, you and I are going to do the Francesca bit, okay? So we're in Canto 5. And we'll pick it up. Let's see what my notes tell me. Minos is twisting his tail around to decide who is going where. And the souls are all blown about. We see different people there. Helen, Dido, Achilles is there, oddly. Paris, Tristan. And I'll play the role of narrator, Dante the Pilgrim, and Virgil, picking it up on line 73. Okay, so you got your books. And if you got your books, have a pen too. And if you think of a question, ask it, write it down in your notebook or whatever. And, if we can pull it off, we'll do these and we'll pause after each one. I think we can pull this off, even though there's so many people. Hello, Megan McComb. I remember you very fondly. Thank you. Okay, let's do it now. We're in the circle of the lustful. I turn toward the poet. I'd speak to those two there who go conjoined and look to be so light upon the wind. And he said to me, you'll see them clearer soon. When they're closer, call to them. Invoke the love that draws them on, and they'll come. The wind had swept them nearer to us now. I moved to them in words, soul-wearied creatures. Come, if none forbids to us, and breathless speak. As doves, when called by their desires, will come, wings spreading high to settle on their nest, borne through the air by their own steady will, so these two left the flock where Dido is. They came, approaching through malignant air, so strong for them had been my feeling cry.
O fellow being, gracious, kind, and good, you, on your journeying through this bruised air, here visit two who tinged the world with blood. Suppose the sovereign of the universe were still our friend, we'd pray he'd grant you peace. You pity so the ill perverting us. Whatever you may please to hear or say, we, as we hear, we, as we speak, assent, so long as now they do, these winds stay silent. My native place is set along those shores through which the river Po comes down, to be at last at peace with all its tributaries. Love, who so fast brings flame to generous hearts, seized him with feeling for the lovely form now torn from me. The harm of how still rankles. Love, who no loved one's pardons loves requite, seized me for him so strongly in delight that as you see, he does not leave me yet. Love drew us onwards to consuming death. Cain's ice awaits the one who quenched our lives.
These words, borne onto us from them, were theirs. And when I heard these spirits in distress, I bowed my eyes and held them low until, at length, Virgil, the poet, said, "What thoughts are these?" I, answering, in the end, began, "Alas, how many yearning thoughts, what great desire, have led them through such sorrow to their fate." And turning to them now, I came to say, "Francesca, how your suffering saddens me. Sheer pity brings me to the point of tears. But tell me this, the how of it, and why, that love in sweetness at such sighing hours permitted you to know these doubtful pangs." And to me she said,
There is no sorrow greater than in times of misery to hold at heart the memory of happiness, your teacher knows. And yet, if you so deeply yearn to trace the root from which the love we share first sprang, then I shall say, and speak as though in tears. One day we read together, for pure joy, how Lancelot was taken in love's palm. We were alone. We knew no suspicion. Time after time, the words we read would lift our eyes and drain all color from our faces. A single point, however, vanquished us. For when at last we read the longed-for smile of Guinevere, at last her lover kissed, he who from me will now never depart, touched his kiss trembling to my open mouth. This book was Gelholt. Pander penned the pimp. That day we read no further down those lines.
and all the while as one of them spoke on, the other wept, and I, in such great pity, fainted away as though I were to die. And now I fell, as bodies fall, for dead. I'm going to start with Natalie, but I'm going to open it to everyone. I've never done a discussion with 100 people before, so it's a bit of a challenge. If you've got an insight or a question, put it on the chat. I'm glad that we see a smile there, but I want some good questions and observations. I find myself fainting with Dante. I mean, what the heck? I remember when I was in college, in fact, I still have the notebook. I read this and I said, one false move and they're in hell forever? This doesn't seem right. So Natalie, maybe you could begin. Can you explain what this poor woman did that would mean that she'd have to be tossed around for the rest of her life?
Putting me on the spot.
I am. I'm before 100 people on Zoom. This is completely improvised, but I have such faith in you. I mean, you know, do you think she's in the wrong place?
I don't know. I think that it's like the subversion of reason, like that desire is more powerful in her than her rationale, like which is really big for
Okay.
her, I think.
Yeah, it's a big thing for your rationality to be overcome by desire. Okay. But isn't it a kind of, okay, I think I'm going to play the role of Francesca advocate, at least for a while. Maybe with the others, I'll do this. I mean, it's so relatable. There's no sorrow. Look at that. It's gut wrenching, Megan says. Can you guys read the text too? And Adam says, Dante is so romantic and idealistic. I'm not like him very much, but maybe he's reading this and like swooning himself. I don't know. Like people read this and they kind of fell in love with Francesca. Did any of you? Oh, Megan's nodding. Megan, talk to us. Well, why? What is it about her that you sympathize with so deeply?
I mean, I think the way that she portrays their story, it's a story of just like love and connection. And I mean, it's a bond so strong that even in where they are now, they're like eternally bound, like not ever to be separated. And so you kind of leave feeling sympathetic or empathetic. I probably would have fainted just as Dante did while reading
You probably
it.
would have done the same thing. Now, and Dante, and this is okay. I'm looking at the text. The note. I can do this. I think Josh Pullman makes a great point. He thinks the reader to sympathize with Francesca. We kind of get drawn into the story, much like we want Jane Eyre to end up with Rochester. Think of any good romantic novel. Our inner desires. Oh, but there's a word that's an alert for evil masquerading. So there's a masquerade going on. Ty notices that students point out Paolo never speaks. They're grossed. They're grossed out by the fact that this is her brother-in-law. It's true. It's kind of like incestuous. At least in 1300, it would have been seen so, and maybe even in 2026. I don't know. The other thing is that she never even mentions Paolo's name. That might be a red flag. She doesn't feel bad. Uh-oh, where's Jim Salas? Identify yourself. Take your microphone on. What do you mean?
Hey, Paul. Yeah, she's not showing any repentance. She's just like, yeah, this happened. We were there. We gave in to our desires, and she was kind of this passive victim.
Okay, there's some really good ones coming up here, but why do you think Dante faints? Why is he so intensely sympathetic that he actually falls down and faints? He's a love poet, remember?
Mm-hmm.
He's written poems like that Guinevere Lancelot thing. He's written poems where he longs for the kiss of the beloved. I guess I could add fuel to the fire. I mean, he writes a Vita Nuova for a woman who was never his wife.
Right.
You know? There's the courtly, oh, good, Megan's laughing. Courtly love, it's, as somebody once wrote, the courtly love tradition, you love the woman who's inaccessible. It's kind of built on the foundation of adultery. Let's see what else though. Natalie, is anyone in hell a believer? Without Christ, doesn't any sin damn us? Okay, so let's imagine that Paolo and Francesca, it's a Sunday and they just went to Mass. And then it's a day of rest. So they decide to kick back with a good book, right? Let's cozy up here, right, sister-in-law, and we'll read. Come on. Again, I'm Francesca's advocate. They kick it, but you might do it with Netflix. It might not be Stranger Things. It might be a little love story. You're cozying up. It's your brother-in-law, and When I was an undergraduate, I was very incensed by this. I was with Dante. What is Dr. Jason Baxter? He says how she would have been a young woman given in marriage to it's true. Her husband was nothing to shout about. Her husband was obviously a pretty bad guy. He kills both of them. He wasn't nice. Jason Baxter is right about that. Here we go. Breaking out the M word, Catherine Illingworth, failed metaphysics. It sounds like love to me, Catherine. What do you got? What does that mean, failed metaphysics? I never saw that in a romance novel.
Well, she's blaming love. That is the reason that this horrible thing happened to her, was she's a victim of love. And if love is what this poem is about, love would not be something that sends people to this place. And so she is bearing false witness against the power that organizes the whole universe, the character of God. And also remember, Dante is a love poet, but in the courtly love tradition, where unrequited love is the highest virtue.
Sounds like masochism.
Yeah, it does.
Oh, Catherine, it's good to have you back in the room. It's a Zoom room, but it's a good one. Well, what does Michelle say here? Is the sin more that she takes no accountability for? Yeah, that's the linchpin, Michelle. Where's Michelle? If you don't take responsibility and you don't say, I really messed up and I'm sorry, you don't get to go to purgatory. Okay? Now, sometimes I wish that Inferno people would wise up after a few hundred years, but that never happens, it seems, in Dante. But Jack has his hand raised. So, one thing you could say about Francesca, she's courteous. She goes right to him. She's very attractive in many ways. I think Jack has been courteous, raising his hands. Speak to us, Jack. What is it?
Well, I think the answer to A, like, does she belong here, and B, why does Dante swoon, is kind of the same, which is that um the sinners in hell have chosen to reject their identity as images of Christ and chosen instead to identify themselves with their sin. So as we get further into hell, you kind of like um you see more and more that the punishments and the nature of the sin, which correspond, um, are more and more degrading to one's humanity. And so the issue with Francesca is that she's choosing to hold on to this lust as opposed to letting it go. And if she would let it go, then that would constitute repentance and she would be forgiven. I think Dante swooning is him failing to realize that um, by having a lack of pity, you're having or excuse me, by being too pitiful towards the sinners in hell, he is failing to recognize that these people aren't themselves anymore, and their image of God has kind of been removed from them.
Yeah,
And
that's
so,
the scary part. You see, like, I was reading, there's a good book by Dennis Turner, who was your teacher, Catherine. And it's like, if hell is what Dante's describing, they don't seem like persons anymore, because persons are capable of turning back. And they don't, she's in love with her own excuse making, her own narrative that she repeats. In real life, we can see people who are obsessed with a certain way of telling a story, and they're locked into themselves. And I think Jack articulated this well. I think Pierce has given us a phrase for the ages: be careful if you think you want to Lancelot and chill with your brother-in-law or sister-in-law or whoever it is. I don't want to make too much light of this. Colleen, Colleen, you're really pretty critical of Francesca, aren't you? Romantic.
No, I mean, no, I mean, I agree with a lot of the things saying about like her identifying with the sin, but I was just trying to say that the sort of, I think the reason he's relating to her, Dante is relating to her, is because of the absurdity of the fact that she made a mistake, and you know, she just refers to Paolo as this person who was never who from me will now never depart. I was sort of making a joke about you know, like, oh my God, now I kissed this guy once and now he's stuck. I'm stuck with him forever.
But she never even calls him by name. Yeah.
Right, like she doesn't even name him. She's like this guy, you know, like
this one. Yeah.
Yeah, like oh, this one. I'm gonna like, I'm here forever because of this guy. I can't even get rid of him.
Ah, yes,
like,
good.
That's part of the punishment, is like this lust that she gave into, and now she's stuck with. She's you know, it's not love, it's not commitment, it's not this beautiful thing. Like somebody said, she's in love with her excuses, she's in love with her narrative, she's not in love with Paolo.
Good. Jerry Grimm just pointed out that love is at the end of the whole paradise, the love that moves the sun and the other stars. Catherine's point, though, is that he is she's making a metaphysical mistake, and she's in a sense disrespecting what God is, which is love. I'm going to use Ben Hancock's point as a segue. Chad, I'm going to ask you once again to copy every one of these chats. Can you do that? I'll take that as a yes. Sir. Yeah, just copy them, put them on a document so we have them for the ages, because they're lovely. Ben says he's fainting because he sees himself. That's absolutely right. I mean, that's exactly what we're seeing. And what's so strange is that a couple of cantos later, he sees Filippo Argenti, and, you know, he's kind of mean to the guy. You're not supposed to say that. If they're in hell because of justice. But he gets praised by Virgil for being so mean to him. But then when we get to Canto 10, and now Farinata, Jeffrey, and Cavalcanti Jack get ready, he's going to be, again, if not moved, perhaps respectful of the two souls that he encounters here. These are heretics. They're in tombs, they're fiery tombs. And as he's walking, we're on page 42 of our translation. He's walking with Virgil, and Farinata's voice comes out on line 22. So, Jeffrey, if you could take it from there, he's sitting erect, or he's standing erect, comes out of the fiery tomb, sepulcher, and says these words to Dante. Take it away.
You mean begin with Tuscan?
That's where you begin. Yes, and sound like forceful Farinata.
Tuscan, you go through the city of fire alive and speak as a man of worth. Come, if you will, and the rest in this domain. Your accent manifests that you were born a son of that great fatherland on which perhaps I reaped too harsh an injury.
This sound so suddenly came ringing out from one among the sepulchres. Fearful, I shrank still closer to the leader's side. What's wrong? He said to me. Just turn around and see there, upright, risen, Farinata. From cincture upwards, you will see him whole. So all the way, he's upright. His chest is out in disdain, thrusting out his chest as though he held hell in high disdain. My leader, hands in animated aid, drove me towards him. He wants Dante to talk to him. And down the line of vaults, he counseled, let your words be duly measured. So there, beneath his sepulchre, I stood. He looked me up and down a while, and then inquired half scornfully,
who are your forebears?
I, always eager and obedient, concealing nothing, laid all plainly forth, at which he arched his brows a little more, and then said,
in fierce hostility they stood against myself, my ancestors, my cause, and so on 2 occasions they were scattered wide.
Scattered, I answered, so they may have been, but all came back from all sides then and now, and your men, that is the Ghibellines, never truly learned that art. Then there arose, revealed before my eyes, a shadow near the first, seen only from the chin up, so he's lower than Farinata. I suppose this is because he'd risen to his knees. It looked me all around as though intent on seeing whether with me was another. But when its doubting glance was wholly spent, weeping, he called out, Jack. Line 58, this is Cavalcanti.
Sorry, I was muted.
That's okay.
If you through this eyeless prison pass on through height of intellect, my son, where is he? And why not here with you?
I come, I said, though not through my own strength. The man who waits there, Virgil, leads me through this place to one, perhaps whom once your son Guido scorned. The way he spoke and what he suffered too had now already spelled for me his name. And that was why my answer was so full. And then he got upright suddenly and said,
what's that you say?
He wailed.
You mean he's not alive? And are his eyes not struck by bonny light?
But then, in noticing that slight delay which came before I offered my reply, he fell back flat and did not reappear. The other noble soul at whose command I'd come to rest in no way changed expression. He neither moved his neck nor bent his waist, but still continuing in what he'd said, he continued.
If they learn that art so ill, that is more torment than this bed of pain, and yet no more than 50 times that face, the moon's, who is our sovereign here, will shine, till you shall learn how heavy that art weighs. If you once more would gain the lovely world, tell me, how dare those burglars and their laws oppose themselves so viciously to mine?
And my answer was the massacre, the mindless waste that stained the flowing Arbia with blood, led in our oratories to these demands. Sighing, he did now move his head.
In none of that was I alone, and I would not, without good cause, have gone with them. I was alone, where all the rest could bear, to think that Florence might be swept away, and boldly stood to speak in her defense.
Well, may your seed find sometime true repose. Untie this knot for me, I now besought, so tightly twined around my searching thoughts. You see, it seems, to judge from what I hear, you see far in advance what time will bring to pass, but otherwise, in terms of present things, you don't seem to see. And he answered,
We see like those who suffer from ill light. We are aware of distant things. Thus far he shines in us, the Lord on high. But when a thing draws near to us, our minds go blank. So if no other brings us news, then nothing of your human state is known to us. You will, from this, be able to deduce that all our knowledge will be wholly dead when all the doors of future time are closed.
and then I said, though my heart was pierced with guilt, we'll get back to that, go say to him, that fallen soul, Cavalcanti, that his firstborn son, Guido, is still among the living. And if, before I answered him, I fell mute, I did so, make him understand, because my thoughts, which you have solved, had strayed to doubt. Okay, stop there. Okay, in the text, okay, John Stam says Farinata. So write some stuff in the chat. Just make believe we're reading it. He's my favorite sinner. He refuses to admit he's in hell. He doesn't even seem to feel the pain of the heat. It's crazy. It's crazy. Matt, you got a question. Why don't you read that? I'm curious about.
Yeah. I was thinking about this with Francesca. She's telling her story and he's a storyteller too, right? And here, he's interacting with these two men who are partisans in Florentine politics in some way. And so his reaction to their suffering is to engage with them, right? Like he's hooked, when Farinata calls out, and I'm sure hell is a noisy place, so I think I'm thinking about his reactions here to these sinners. Why does he swoon when Francesca's talking? Why does he listen and interact with Farinata? And I'm just kind of, so that's my curiosity, his extent to which he's identifying with these sinners, and then the ways in which he's reacting to them. Yeah.
Well, I'll just give a little bit of context in case you didn't read the notes. Farinata was a Ghibelline. They were enemies, and they kind of go back and forth. They're almost trash talking back and forth in the beginning. I think that, as John Stamps points out, Dante does admire. In fact, the word in Italian is very close to magnanimity. I mean, he has a sense of his own greatness. He also kept the Ghibellines from burning Florence to the ground when they could have done so. This was like in 1260. I think it was before Dante was born. And so he gives him credit for that. The other guy, Cavalcanti, is the father of Guido. Guido was a poet whom Dante knew and was good friends with, but he didn't believe in God. I mean, these are heretics, and I don't think he shared Dante's faith that someone like Beatrice could be an image of Christ for his friend. Dante, when the white Guelphs come back into power, exiles Guido Cavalcanti. He dies a year later. He's probably responsible for Guido's death. He's not dead in 1300. He will be dead in 1302. Dante's writing this, and so the poet is describing the pilgrim in such a way that he feels guilt. My heart was pierced with guilt because he didn't quite give the whole answer to Cavalcanti, who thinks his son is dead. But the poet is guilty too because he was responsible for his exile. To go back to Matt's point, there's a close affinity. These are Florentine people, and he's very much involved in politics. Let's see if anything else has come in. What do you notice, though? These guys are right next to each other. Do they seem like roommates? Do they seem like sepulchre besties? Is there any sense in which they connect with each other? It's pretty much a rhetorical question. They're not.
Yeah.
Farinata begins exactly where he left off. Cavalcanti falls down in grief, and then he just goes on in line 77. If he went on, they learned that art so ill, that is more torment than this bed of pain. Um, there's no sense in which they can get out of their prison of ego to recognize each other. And this is the same. We saw this with Francesca and Paolo. We're going to see it with Ulysses, who's bound up with Diomedes. Horrifically, we'll see it with Ugolino biting the head of Ruggieri. It's a state of solipsism. They're locked in the prison of their own egos. And while they have qualities that perhaps inspire our pity, then we can begin to see, though, the spiritual state they are in. Adam's right. There's a lot of historical context here. If fraud is one of the worst sins, Heather says, charm being the tip of the spear is an interesting connective tissue. There's a certain charm to a very self-confident guy like Farinata. Okay, in the interest of time, I want to move to the next one. Oh, we have so many. Okay, first of all, let's see. How do you take a vote, Chad, in Zoom? Do you know how to take a vote, Chad?
I believe we would have had to set up the poll before this.
Okay, so I don't know how we're going to do this. I don't think we're going to get to Ugolino, Catherine. I'm not even sure we're going to get to Ulysses at this rate, Sam. I should have known better. Is it okay? Just show me with a shake of the head or the nod of the head. Is it okay if we pick up where we left off next time? I see more nods than shakes.
No. We need to go on. We need to go on to Purgatorio.
Okay, John, you're in the minority.
John, I don't want to get stuck on.
Show me with your hand gestures. You all know how to do hands. John, do you see? Illustrate to John why he's in the minority. I don't want to gang up on you, John, but look. I mean, Catherine's been practicing.
I don't want to be stuck in the Inferno.
Nobody does. I'm so happy to get out of here. My students will attest. I'm always happy. Let's move on. Okay, where are we going now? Jack's favorite canto is Canto 11. It gives you the whole organization of hell. Canto 12, they're going down. Canto 13, the guy who commits suicide. When all the people turn against him. Now, Luke, did I assign this to you?
Yes, you did.
And you've been practicing, right?
Nope, it's going to be a cold reading.
A cold reading. Okay, well, it's a cold place. Look at Canto 13. The Wood of the Suicides, every line in the beginning of the tercet begins no, 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 non, non, non in Italian. It's a place of a kind of a nothingness. I meant to point out that Farinata says we only can see dimly into the future. At the end of time, we will know nothing. Evil is a nada. It's a nothing. This is how Augustine talks about evil as absence. Their knowledge is diminishing. And this is a diminished place. On the dead wood are disgusting harpies. These are people who have committed suicide. And Pierre de la Vigne was the advisor, the chief advisor to the emperor, Frederick II. You know, as one commentator said, this is a name that would have been known as well as Winston Churchill to the people in Dante's day. I mean, this guy was very important as a world leader. And yet, people get envious, people get jealous, and he is placed in prison, and he tells his story. He breaks off a little branch or a little twig, much as is done with Polydorus in the Aeneid, and the voice comes out, "Why do you break me?" Let's pick it up with line 55, okay, Luke?
Okay.
And, you know, I remember when I taught at Valparaiso, I got a very, very moving essay saying, this is where we see Dante being dated. This is a poor guy who falls into depression. We would excuse his despair. We would understand it psychologically. Let's look at his psychology and see if we can understand why he is in hell. Okay, take it away. The trunk, take it away.
Your words, sir, prove so sweet a bait. I cannot here keep silence. Don't be irked if I a while should settle on that lure and talk. I am the one who held in hand both keys to Federigo's heart. I turned them there, locking so smoothly and unlocking it, that all men almost I stole from his secrets. Faith I kept so true in that proud office. I wasted sleep and lost my steady pulse.
And then you keep going. You got a long one here.
That harlot scandal, then, her rattled eyes she never drags from where the emperor dwells. The vice of court life, mortal blight of all, inflamed the minds of everyone around me, against me. And they in flames inflamed the great Augustus. So happy honors turned to hapless grief. My mind, itself disdainful in its tastes, believing it could flee disdain by dying, made me unjust against myself so just. By all these weird new wooded roots, I swear on oath before you, I did not break faith, nor failed a lord so worthy of regard. Will you, should either head back to the world, bring comfort to my memory, which lies still lashed beneath the stroke of envious eyes?
Pausing a while, he said, my chosen poet, Virgil said, he's silent now, so waste no opportunity if there's more you wish to know, and then say it. Dante said, you, I replied, must speak once more and ask what you believe will leave me satisfied. I could not do it. Pity wrings my core. And so Virgil began again. Suppose that freely from a generous heart someone should do, imprisoned ghost, what your prayers seek. Tell us, if you care to, how souls are bound in these hard knots. And if you can, will anyone ever be loosed from limbs like these? And at that, exhaling heavily, the trunk converted wind to word and formed this speech.
The answer you require is quick to give. When any soul abandons savagely its body, rending self by self away, Minos consigns it to the seventh gulf. Falling, it finds this copse. Yet no one place is chosen as its plot. Where fortune slings it, there, as spelt grains might, it germinates. A sapling sprouts, grows ligneous, and then the harpies, grazing on its foliage, fashion sharp pain and windows for that pain. We, as shall all, come judgment day, shall seek our cast-off spoil, yet not put on this vestment. Keeping what we tore off would not be fair. Our bodies we shall drag back here, and all around this melancholy grove they'll swing, each on the thorn of shades that wrought them harm.
Dante feels pity. I must say I do too. Catherine, I just happen to see you in my sights here. Would you mind somehow defending Dante the poet, putting this poor soul in hell? Why? I mean, the poor guy is gossiped against, unjustly put into prison, falls into a kind of depression. He worked so hard. Can't he get some credit for the hard work he did for the emperor?
I mean, I think this is another metaphysical point just because I brought that up earlier, that there is a unity of soul and body that is really important to Dante that I think he wants to emphasize here. And we even saw that in a little bit in our last selection about, the importance of the body, the resurrection of the body is a doctrine that Dante really wants to defend. And the body, I think that he wants to emphasize the severity of this sin of separating the soul from the body through in this gruesome way, the way he describes it here. It is the way that he punishes that is by making this sort of like wooden growth so that it's impossible to ever free the soul from this like wooded body, in another way. He couldn't commit violence against a body in this way that he's captured in hell. So I think that he wants our hearts to be broken. I think his heart is broken, and to feel the horror of the violent divorce of the soul from the body in this.
Okay. Pierce seems to agree with you. I mean, that he's blaming his own kind of mind. Mm-hmm. He's rejected his body. The soul is the form of the body. You're right. They're integral. My mind made me unjust against myself. And then if you continue, Pierce, myself so just. There's a self-justification kind of going on there, even at the end of that line. But John, you have something about...
So like St. Thomas Aquinas thinks that the soul after death can't change. That's kind of why these people are stuck the way they are. Repentance is impossible for them. And I just think Why? Why can't a soul change? I mean,
I know. I
what's
asked
that
the same
anthropology?
question, John. I kind of with you. I like second chances or third or fourth ones. Where's the metaphysics? Where's that metaphysician, Catherine?
I know.
Why you've studied Aquinas? Why can't they change?
I mean, we want them to, but this is, I mean, they can't change because justice is functions in a structure and along a timeline that we are sort of given the opportunity to choose salvation in a pretty significant or pretty structured context. And we'll see when we get to especially the beginning of Purgatorio, that the gate is actually pretty wide open, like a praying mother, an infant baptism, a deathbed confession, like even the will to love another person or God, and even the slightest inclination can qualify as salvific in Dante's doctrinal universe. And these people don't incline themselves toward the good in any way that would qualify in this sort of wide gate to heaven that Dante stands by.
That is the great divide. So later on, I didn't assign these ones. You probably read them though. You met a guy named Guido del Montefeltro. This guy was like Pierre. He's an advisor. He was in politics. He did his work. He becomes a Franciscan. Talk about conversion experience. And he's sincere. But good old Pope Boniface comes and says, look, I need your consigliere help here. I need to know how I'm going to get over on this enemy of mine. And I tell you what, I'll make you a deal. An offer you can't refuse. Okay, Godfather here. I give you absolution in advance. There you go. Now tell me how to get this guy down. And he does it. And Guido goes to hell. And I think it's his brother or his cousin Buonconte says Mary or has a prayer at the very end of his life, and he's been a really violent guy, and he goes to heaven. I mean, where's the justice in that? I know I'm like Ivan Karamazov here.
I don't have a real.
What's that?
I said I don't have an answer to your last question, but this is reminding me of the scene in Brothers K with the onion. The parable of the onion there, right?
Yeah, good. Right. Yeah, John is nodding. So in that novel, if you haven't read it, put everything else down for the next month, read that, and then read Purgatory. Dante says, imagine in hell that somebody gets an advocate, the guardian angel, who goes down and who says to God, he did one good deed. She gave an onion to a poor beggar. The angel, you can go down and get the onion, see if you can drag that mean person up with an onion. She grabs the onion and starts pulling her up, but other people grab onto her legs, and they all are going up. And she says, "It's my onion, damn it!" And she kicks them all away, and the onion breaks, and she goes back to hell. It's not funny; it's very sad. And
it's a great story.
It's a great story. Zosima prays for the suicides. That he's the kind of religious figure. It's my favorite novel, John. I mean, you should know. And I always read Dante.
I've read your book.
Oh, thank you. Good. Well, I hope it helps. But the thing is, like, Catherine's right. And for the rest of these sessions, trust Catherine. They're going to show up, right?
I will. Yes, I couldn't resist.
No, but I mean, I think. Okay, so I was reading Robert Hollander just a second ago, and he says Dante wants you to fall into that kind of sympathy, but then he wants you somehow as the reader to begin to attune yourself to eternal justice. And I find it a struggle every time I read the Inferno. And we're going to read his old teacher, Brunetto, and he just seems like the nicest guy, like a real mentor figure. Why is he in hell? He's coming up next, and I think we have time to get to him. But I want to see what these. Okay, Jack's got an analysis of the parable of the onion, so good. Austin, does Dante? Oh, there's Autumn. Hi, Autumn. Does Dante suggest that one would have inherent goodness or justness to be able to earn their way into heaven, and having flaws in one's thoughts would warrant damnation? Okay, so the word earn in quotes, scare quotes, if you will, one never earns one's way into heaven, whether you're a Catholic, an Orthodox, or a Protestant, or whatever, or even a pagan, and there'll be some surprise appearances of pagans in purgatory and heaven. It's gift. The question is, do you turn yourself to accept the gift?
Mhm.
And it seems that when Pierre despairs, he locks himself away. I mean, despair is sometimes considered the sin against the Holy Spirit. I am in such an awful state that nothing, including God's grace, can help me. And so it's a self-enclosure. And I think arguably we could see that in Brunetto, but let's see. Does anybody have? I don't want to leave too quickly. And all, just be sure you copy all these because I want to see these, Chad, and think about this. Reese Ramos, Dante's Eternal Justice. It's his framework after all. Catherine.
I was going to say there is one suicide who has a form of salvation, who's Cato. We have someone who has committed suicide, but not out of despair, out of sort of a moral indignation.
Yeah, moral indignation. And then the irony is he does it when Julius Caesar declares himself emperor, but meanwhile Brutus and Cassius, who didn't want Julius Caesar alive, are in the mouth of Satan. So.
And he's in Purgatorio. I mean,
Cato is the guardian of Purgatorio.
Inferno, we're never going to get there.
Okay, all right, John, thank you. You're a lot like Virgil, saying to Dante, get going, speed up. Okay, Brunetto. Who did I give? Is this Pierce, perhaps? Is this Brunetto Pierce?
Yep.
Okay, so let's pick it up with line 22. They're walking along, eyed up and down so closely. These are those who are violent against God. Supposedly it's the sodomites. There's nothing about that in this canto, about Brunetto being that. And anyway, let's see what he has to say. He's going to begin by saying how marvelous. So pick it up there. Brunetto sees Dante.
22.
Yeah, just give it a really happy exclamation.
How marvelous.
And I, as he then stretched an arm towards me, fixed eyes keenly through his fire-baked look, that these singed features could not fend away my mind from knowing truly who he was. And reaching down a hand toward his face, I answered him, Brunetto, sir, are you here?
Do not, my dearest son, be vexed, but let Brunetto Latino turn and walk a while along with you. The troops can run.
I pray, sir, to the utmost do, or should you wish, I said, I'll sit with you so long as this man here, Virgil, agrees. I go with him.
Dear boy, if any in this herd should ever pause, he lies 100 years powerless to fan these searing fires away. And so move on, I'll follow at your coattails, then catch up later with that entourage, which, as it goes, bewails eternal loss.
I did not dare climb down. He's above his teacher here. The student is above the teacher. I didn't dare climb down to quit the causeway and walk with him on equal terms, but still, as though in reverence, I kept my head bowed low. And then he began again.
What chance or destiny leads you down here before your final day? And who is this that shows the way to you?
There up above, when life is halcyon, I lost myself, my path all blurred, in some great deep before my years were full. Only as dawn rose yesterday, I turned aside, then he, and yet again I turned, appeared and guides me on this road back home.
If you pursue your star, then doubtless you will reach a glorious goal, supposing in the happy life I knew you well. And I myself, had not I died too soon, seeing how kind the heavens looked on you, would willingly have helped you in your work. But that malignant and ungrateful race, descending ab antico from Fiesole, they still retain the taint of crag and hill, will act, because you act so well, as bitter foes. That much is logical. No luscious fig can rightly thrive where small, sour sorbus grows. The world since ancient times has known their blind. The tribe is grasping, envious, and proud. Keep yourself clean of habits of their kind. Fortune for you reserves such great renown that both these factions, black and white, will seek to set their teeth in you. Keep goats from grass. Well may these cattle from Fiesole make themselves straw, but never touch the sprout that springs, if any does within their dung, to bring to life the sacred seed of Rome, of those remaining when that ancient place became the very home and nest of malice.
If all, I said to him, that I might ask were answered and in full, then you would not be exiled, as you are from human nature. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Fixed in my thoughts and working at my heart, an image of you still endures, a dear good Father, as in the world you were when hour by hour you taught me how a man becomes eternal. How great my gratitude must be, and will show while I still live, and all my tongue will tell. I write as you recounted here the story of my future course, and keep your words with others. A lady, if I come to her, will comment. On this point only I'd have you be clear, that I, so long as conscience does not chide, am well prepared for all that fortune wills. In what you vouch, my ears hear nothing new. Let fortune therefore do as fortune pleases, whirl at her wheel, like yokels at their hoe. My teacher, who had turned right about, looked back at me and fixed me with his eye. Those listen well, he said, who take good note. So on I go, speaking with Lawyer Brunetto. I ask who his companions are, the great and the good, the eminent and men of note. And he said,
Of some you're right to want to know, more laudable of others not to speak. Our time would be too short for all that din. But all of them, be sure, were men of learning, authorities and dons of world renown, besmirched when living with the self-same sin. And so among this dismal crowd runs Christian Diacorso too, the professor. And if you yearn to set your eyes on such like mangy scabs, you could. That bishop there, the slave of slaves, transferred him to Vicenza from the Arno. He left his muscles ill distended there. I would say more, yet further I may not advance, nor any longer talk with you. I see new smoke there rising from the sand. I can't consort with those who now draw near. My treasury, may that commend itself, and that I still live on. I ask no more.
around he swung. To me, he seemed like one who in the fields around Verona runs for that fine prize, a length of green festoon. He seemed to me the one that wins, not loses. But of course, he's lost the big one. He's in hell. But he's a good teacher. Why is he in hell? Okay, I'm looking at some quotes here. Oh, you don't know where we are. Oh, okay, good. Some people are telling people where we are. Why is Brunetto in hell? Ty, you teach this book, don't you? Don't you teach this in Oaks?
Well, he's exiled from human nature. I mean,
John, I have to say, I found that really interesting because that goes with that point that they're losing their personhood somehow in this. Okay, but Ty, do you do this one in class?
I do, and it's interesting because I teach in a public school, so when we talk about sins against God or violence against God, and tie it to not only money lending, which they kind of think about what's up with that. I mean, my parents have a mortgage, but then when it's tied to homosexuality, it's really challenging and problematic for them.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Yeah, I mean that's interesting. Yeah. So it's interesting you talk about usury and homosexuality. The church says they both go against natural law. Okay, this is the medieval teaching. Mm-hmm. You're making money out of money. Of course, we all have bankers now and usury. There's a wonderful book by Judge John Noonan, The Church That Can the Church that changes and never changes. The fact is, the teaching on usury obviously changed. In the last few years, the church's attitude toward welcoming homosexuals into worship, Pope Francis was making that effort. Pope Leo is making that effort. There's no mention of that here. What in Brunetto is awry? If we assume that it's not the fact that he was a homosexual, is there anything in his language that sets alarms off?
Is he making us read between the lines or something?
Always, always.
What fortune or destiny? What star? Which is this is just, it's very secular. You taught me how men make themselves eternal, is this line that Dante says to him. And he's not talking about anything religious. He's talking about poetry. And that is fame was achieved through writing. You know, he says this all the time, that eternal life is granted through literary achievement. And it's just very, I think that these are just a very typical secular literati that Dante is pointing out this void in any understanding of the sort of spiritual basis behind everything that this beloved teacher should have been teaching him that just was not present in their academic.
What do you guys think of that? Yeah, Michelle, he seems obsessed with his legacy and accomplishment. So many of these souls are fame. He recommends his treasury. That's one of his books, rather than the Bible or something that might have been more edifying. Dante says he's going home. I don't think what Brunetto understands, that home is heaven for Dante. I mean, our home, our telos, is with God, but that doesn't show up. You know, what star are you following? The other thing that struck me, I don't know if it struck you, he's a bit of a, racist isn't the right word. Here's Fiesole, here's Florence. He doesn't like immigrants. I mean, this is on people's minds these days. He's like, watch out for those Fiesole people. They really shouldn't even be in Florence. Did you just notice those lines? And keep the goats from grass. Well may those cattle from Fiesole make themselves straw. It's bizarre. I mean, Fiesole is a half-hour bus ride from Florence, but they're the other. You see all that? I mean, I just happened to notice that this time. The stuff that Catherine is pointing to is pretty crucial. But I'd love to hear other voices. He's a snob, Heather says. You think Brunetto's a snob? Then why would he get so, like, am I a snob? I got excited to see you. You're my former student. He's excited to see his student. What's snobby about that?
Well, he's dismissing people, you know, pretty easily. Like he feels like he was really comfortable with his status and he feels like that should continue like indefinitely.
That's true. He's a snob when it comes to those newcomers, the Fiesoles. Yeah. He recommends his own book. He's kind of full of himself. Anybody want to defend Brunetto? He seemed to be the one that wins. Yeah, John, thank you.
Paul,
John,
you get sent to hell. You get sent to hell for being a snob?
Oh,
what kind of a world is this?
This is my old buddy.
I don't like the guys in South Bend, and so you throw me in hell. I don't get it.
He's dialing in from Valparaiso, Indiana. This man he's older than I am, but he's up. It's 11 p.m. where he is. John, say what you got to say.
That's no excuse.
No excuse. So you find yourself recoiling from this Dantean metaphysics.
Well, you know, Dante seems more human than I was prepared for. In the sense that he you know, when he feels pity for these people, it's something that I feel too. But I've heard other people say why this is why person's in hell and why this person is in hell. But it doesn't seem to, the text doesn't explain to me why Brunetti's in hell.
It just doesn't. He seems like a good old secular teacher. You know, Sam, dare I call on you? You've got dare I? I think I will. Please. How do you respond to my old colleague?
I don't know if I have the answer, but I will point out, I think someone said earlier that there is no mention in this canto of sodomy, but in line 114 in our Kirkpatrick translation, it talks about his muscles ill distended.
Yeah,
and this
that's the only one. He's talking about some bishop. Yeah. That would seem to be a reference to somebody who has, yes, okay.
So I don't know. It may be that what Brunetto is doing there is like pointing the finger at someone else, saying that's why he's here.
Right.
And are we supposed to understand that something similar is going on in his case? I don't know. It's not clear to me.
I don't know. Ben, you got any solution to this? I got to pick on my former. These are the go-tos I used to go to in class. I'd throw them the ball, they'd come up with something. And Ben, he's an old teacher. Should he be there? Talk to my friend John, who doesn't think he should be there. Ben Hancock, that is.
I was wondering if there's a second Ben that you may have
there's
been
only
calling
one. Right? At least there may be, but right now it's Ben Hancock.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I thought the idea, particularly that I'll echo just Catherine's thought. But we also see, I think, in Brunetto, something that's really interesting is he seems pretty confident. He seems like he's pretty cool with how things are going. I mean, he says, "Let fortune therefore do as fortune pleases," uh, because it seems like he's pretty self-assured of the whole matter. He's in hell and he doesn't seem bothered by it. He's just spinning at the wheel of, fate is going to do to him what it's going to do. But once again, there's nothing very worshipful. There's nothing very cognizant of his desire to reach God. In fact, there's a sort of he throws his hands up. He says, "Well, things happen randomly. I've done my best. I'm pretty confident in how it turned out."
Yeah, and he should know better. John, are you satisfied?
He seems to me to be in the wrong layer of hell. He should be with Farinata then.
Okay, one could argue, how does Minos twist his tail and pick the right one? He seems to have some of that self-enclosed kind of magnanimous, proud spirit, perhaps with the heretics. I think that's what you're getting at. Perhaps him and
Farinata would be good friends there.
Yeah. I mean, on the homosexuality question, and none of this is being recorded, but I want to say it. In purgatory, the circle of the lustful at the top of the mountain, just before the Garden of Eden, he has heterosexuals and homosexuals on an equal level embracing each other. One are going in one direction, the others are going in the other direction, and they embrace. So I sometimes wonder what Dante is saying specifically, if anything, about sodomy, as it's called in the book. I also think that he's writing this over the course of a number of years. And when you get to purgatory and we talk about that terrace, we might want to revisit what he is perhaps suggesting about human sexuality. But I mean, the argument that John Ruff is making, I think could be applied to Ulysses, whom we haven't gotten to yet, who simply wants to see the world and learn things. Aristotle says that human beings are the creatures who desire to know. Well, why is he there? He wants to know. And Ugolino is accused falsely, and he sees his children dying before him. And again, Dante feels a tremendous pity. So I think Ugolino, Catherine, you're going to read that, and Sam is going to read Ulysses. John Stamps, please forgive me. I know you want to get to purgatory, but we must descend so we can ascend.
Okay.
We've not yet fully descended, you see, and we haven't even had them climb all over furry Satan and make their way back up. So I think it's 9 o'clock. It's for some people later than that. Ben Hancock, what is it, midnight? Are you in Princeton or in Chicago?
I'm in Princeton, so it's just a new day today.
Yeah, get some sleep. Okay, so if you are somebody I haven't talked to in a year or two, would you send me an email? I'd love to hear how you're doing, and we can catch up maybe over Zoom personally. If you have any suggestions about how I should run this thing next time, send them via email. I enjoyed it because I got to do it like we do great books. I didn't think I'd be able to. I don't want to hear my voice for 2 hours. I don't think it would be a happy or helpful thing. Somebody said hell was fun. It's not supposed to be, Resi Ramos. It's not supposed to be, but it would be fun. I think maybe, breakout groups. Yeah, my daughter recommended this. I have to learn how to do this. Professor Jillian says, I want to do this, but with Dostoevsky. Wrong book, but next time. Wojtek, thank you. Okay, so you'll copy all these things. If you have any suggestions, just email me. But now it's time to say goodbye and farewell. So thank you, and I'll see you next time. All right, thank you very much.